can't protect us.
I'll find a way.
I have been waiting an eternity of your strength to arrive. What is it you are seeking?
Destroy my enemies and save my family.
In a world where legends often fade into distant echoes, there comes a tale that refuses to die, a story reborn through shadow, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will of a man who stepped beyond mortality to protect everything he loved. This is the journey of a ruler who stood between his people and the crushing weight of an empire, a man whose devotion carved him into a myth, feared and whispered for centuries. The film reimagines his life through the lens of tragedy and power, painting him not as a monster born of evil, but as a hero cornered by fate, choosing darkness only when the light abandoned him. The world he inhabits is drenched in mist and war, where kingdoms crumble under foreign cruelty and hope becomes a rare treasure, and it's in this bleak horizon that his transformation begins. The story starts in a land ruled by a leader whose heart has never forgotten the weight of battle. Once taken as a child and molded into a weapon by an empire that used fear as its sharpest blade, he returns years later as a prince who wants peace more than glory. But the shadows of his past still cling to him, whispering reminders of the life he was forced to live, the battles he could not forget, and the blood he could not wash away. He carries these scars silently, believing that power means nothing if it cannot protect the innocent. Yet deep beneath this desire for peace lies the dormant storm within him, a warrior forged in violence, haunted by memories sharper than steel. When the empire that shaped him returns with new demands, asking for the boys of his kingdom, including his own son, the fragile peace he built begins to crumble. This moment becomes the heart of the entire film, a turning point where desperation collides with destiny. He knows the cruelty these young boys will face because he survived it himself. The innocence stolen, the childhood erased, the soul reshaped to serve the hunger of a foreign throne. He refuses to watch history repeat itself. The fear in his villagers' eyes, the trembling hands of parents clutching their sons, the quiet determination in his own heartbeat, all of it pushes him toward a decision that will change his world forever. The forest becomes the stage for his fateful encounter, a realm untouched by sunlight and inhabited by a creature whose existence is more myth than truth. The mountain cave he enters feels alive with dread, its darkness pressing against him as though testing the strength of his resolve. Inside dwells a being who has walked centuries alone, cursed with endless hunger, yet imprisoned by his own immortality. This ancient monster recognizes something familiar in the prince's eyes, not fear, but a pain that mirrors his own. Their dialogue becomes a bargaining ground between destiny and doom. The offer is simple yet terrifying, unimaginable strength, inhuman speed, and the power to defeat an entire army for a price that goes far beyond blood. The transformation sequence is crafted with emotional weight rather than mere spectacle. It is not portrayed as a triumph, but as a surrender to something deeper, darker, and irreversible. Every beat of his heart slows, then roars back to life with overwhelming force. The world sharpens around him, sounds become vibrant, colors burn brighter, and every breath feels like drawing in the essence of night itself. But alongside this newfound power comes an ache, a thirst whispering from the edges of his mind. The battle between instinct and humanity becomes the film's most gripping conflict, echoing through every step he takes from this moment onward. When the Empire marches against his land, the film shifts into a breathtaking storm of conflict. The prince-turned-creature unleashes the full range of his new abilities, moving not like a man but like a force of nature. His body becomes a blur of motion, and the battlefield transforms into a stage for his wrath. Yet, even in the thrill of this power, the story constantly reminds us that every victory carries a cost. His people, once terrified of the invaders, begin to fear him as well. The line between protector and monster grows thin, trembling like a thread ready to snap. The questions he cannot silence continue to echo. How much of himself must he sacrifice to save those he loves? And when he is no longer flesh and blood, will they still recognize the man behind the legend? The emotional core of the film rests heavily on his relationship with his family. His wife becomes the anchor that ties him to his humanity, a guiding light trembling against the darkness tightening around him. She sees the burden he carries, the silent suffering he refuses to speak of, and she stands with him even when the world turns away. Their conversations are filled with longing, fear, and a tenderness sharpened by the knowledge that every moment could be their last. The bond with his son deepens as the boy struggles to understand why his father is changing, why villagers whisper behind doors, why shadows follow him so closely. These moments add a layer of raw vulnerability that elevates the story from a tale of monsters to a narrative about love surviving even in the darkest corners of existence. As the Empire grows more desperate and monstrous in its cruelty, the prince's internal war becomes inevitable. He is hunted not only by his enemies, but by his own nature. His people's trust begins to fracture, suspicion growing like frost across their faith. His refusal to feed on them becomes a silent war he must fight alone, each sunrise burning against the power that tries to consume him from within. As the line separating man from myth dissolves, he realizes that protecting his kingdom requires more than strength. It demands sacrifice, the kind only a legend can endure. The final confrontation builds with sweeping intensity, blending tragedy, heroism, and supernatural spectacle. Standing face to face with impossible odds, the prince embraces what he has become not for power, but for love. His transformation into the embodiment of darkness becomes an act of devotion. He charges forward not as a ruler desperate to win, but as a father determined to ensure his son inherits a peaceful world. The cruelty of the Empire collapses beneath the weight of his fury, yet with every strike he loses a piece of his humanity, until the man he once was fades into the very mist surrounding him. The climax brings heartbreak and brilliance intertwined. With his wife's life slipping through his fingers, he faces the one truth he tried to avoid, that immortality means nothing when love cannot be saved. Her final act becomes the spark that seals his destiny, pushing him to embrace the full force of the curse he once feared. Their final exchange is painted with tragic beauty, a promise whispered between life and death, leaving him with both immeasurable strength and an unbearable void. In this moment, the story reveals its greatest theme, that legends are often born not from victory, but from loss so powerful it becomes eternal. The film's closing moments reshape the myth of Dracula into a tale of eternal longing. The prince emerges into a new world, walking through centuries of solitude. His eyes carry the weight of ages, yet the memory of his family remains alive within him, burning brighter than the curse that binds him. The world moves forward, kingdoms rise and fall, yet his presence lingers in the shadows of time, forever searching, forever waiting. The ending teases a haunting continuation, stretching the thread of his story into modern times, suggesting that even the oldest of monsters can evolve, adapt, and carry the heart of a man beneath centuries of darkness. The script becomes a reflection of how legends are shaped not by magic, but by choices forged in pain and love. It turns Dracula from a creature of evil into a tragic guardian who embraced darkness only to shield the innocent. It reframes the myth into a symbol of sacrifice, demonstrating that even the most feared monsters can be born from the purest intentions. Through sweeping visuals, emotional depth, and a reimagined origin, the film transforms the age-old vampire lore into a fresh tale about humanity standing on the edge of oblivion, where one man's devotion becomes his curse, his power, and ultimately his immortality.